103.8 and 107.5 FM. Faith-filled frequencies.
Well, in some shape or form, I'm talking to two people that most of us wouldn't really want to be excited to talk to them, because that could mean you're in a financial dwang. But I would say quite the opposite. It's reaching out because you feel you need help. And they are here to help. Algoa Debt Counsellors joining us in studio today, Amanda Johnson and Derryn. Have I got it right? Fish. I can't read properly. Derryn Fish. Ladies, thank you very much for coming in to chat with us this afternoon. Very grateful to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And I also just want to say that when I saw you, I said, you must have a lot of joy. What brings you joy in your job as a debt counsellor? So maybe I can begin there.
Yes, Ethan.
Come a little closer.
I think our biggest joy is being able to help somebody that is so cash-strapped that they actually can't breathe. And then once they have been involved in the debt counselling process and we have the order in place, the court order in place, they can actually breathe and they see they have more money when their salaries come off, and we assist with seeing that their debt is paid. And I think the biggest joy as well is when we issue clearance, when all the debt is paid up and we have to let the credit providers and credit bureaus know to update and remove the debt review flag, and then they are able to buy if they need to buy stuff. And then also having our clients coming to the office to show us their new car that they've bought, and they are so excited because they've actually got their lives back.
I don't want to say it's a good experience to go into debt counselling, but I kind of wish that people had the tools that you provide them with when a person's in school or when they hit the working world, because I think that is probably a big role in what you do is helping people to be educated and to change their behavior. Is that how it works?
Very definitely. We find that most people have never actually sat and done a budget. They have no concept of where their money is going to. They have no concept of the interest they're paying, the linked insurances, the fees on the debt. So it's very important to actually sit and go through with our clients exactly where their money is going to and how we are going to structure it so that they can manage to live as well as to get rid of their debt. And that is what we're there for.
Who should consider going to see a debt counsellor, and basically when?
The minute that you find yourself looking for a new loan to service existing loans, you are in big trouble. So where you're going to take another credit card because you haven't got enough at the end of the month to pay the existing credit card or the existing personal loan, you actually need to take action, because that is the worst thing to do, is to roll one debt and pay it with a new debt, because you are going to get to a point where all your money is going to debt and you've got nothing to actually live on. So, yeah.
And what are some of the easy hacks or quick fixes that you start a person off with? Maybe I would assume you start them off with saying, let's do a budget. But are there other things as well that you say, this is a quick way that we can start addressing these problems?
Well, it's very much dependent on a person's circumstances, because every single person has a different reason as to why they've landed up in that situation. So it's not a one size fits all. You've actually got to, that's why we like the personal touch, because you actually need to engage with your clients and find out how did they get there and where are they spending their money. Some people have got 2 or 3 children, and school fees are not cheap anymore, but they still need to be paid. So you've got to look for those expenses like excessive cell phone contracts. When it comes to the end of the contract, don't go into a new expensive contract just because you want a fancy new phone. Rather look at buying airtime or some cheaper option. But you really need to go through each person's budget to see where the money is going and where we can reassign it so that it's used in a better fashion.
I would imagine some people think necessities mislabel luxuries as necessities.
Very much so, yes.
I need DSTV.
Very much so, or I need that brand new car that I've just seen my neighbour drive into his driveway. I need one like that as well. And I mean, that's not really what you need. You actually need to look at your finances before you decide on where you're going to spend that money. So, yeah.
It's almost a little bit of rehabilitation after they come through the program with you.
It is very much rehabilitation and teaching people to work with their money. You know, you can't have everything that somebody else's have because your circumstances are different to their circumstances. So, you know, basically teaching people they can't keep up with the Joneses all the time.
So, let's take myself as an example. And we're talking to Algoa Debt Counsellors, talking to Amanda Johnson, Derryn Fish, about how do we deal with debt in a responsible way. Let's say I'm now looking, as you said, I'm looking at a position or a situation where I realize I actually need to take out another loan to pay these loans. I contact you. I sit down with you. What happens? How does the first consult go?
So initially we start generally with a credit check to see exactly what your existing debt is, what your current installments add up to. And then we will make an estimate of what you would pay under debt counselling to get you out of debt counselling within a reasonable period. Because the whole aim of the debt counselling process is to rehabilitate you so that you can enter into the financial market again. So with 15 years experience behind us, we're pretty accurate at estimating what we're going to need to get that debt, especially your unsecured debt, settled within a period of 5 years. So we generally work on a period of 5 years, but I mean, again, it comes down to the numbers. What do you earn? How much have you got available after you've paid your lights and water, rates and taxes, foods, airtime, transport, school fees? So that's all your living expenses that we budget for, to come up with an amount that we've got available to pay towards the debt. And then obviously we've got to tweak that so that, because you don't want to be under debt counselling for 10 years. You want to get that period down to a manageable period so that you can actually exit debt review.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize is just the little things. One bread and a litre of milk per day for 30 days is over 900 Rand a month. People don't realize that. And that starts making you think of where my money is actually going.
If you've got any questions, drop us a WhatsApp, 072-147-2321. Algoa Debt Counsellors, Amanda Johnson and Derryn Fish in studio with us this afternoon.
103.8 and 107.5 FM. Faith-filled frequencies.
The festive season can be a wonderful time. It can be also an extremely stress-filled time. And I think sometimes it doesn't help that we've just had Black Friday and we think about all the gifts that we want to buy for our family at Christmas time. And then we get paid early in December, and then January seems to be 300 days long. Is this the experience of most, Amanda?
Yes, definitely it is. Is that a lot of people get their salaries and bonuses in the middle of December, and then they're still trying to service what they bought on Black Friday, and then Christmas is upon them, and then they just spend their money, and there's nothing to pay their accounts at the end of December. And then January happens and there's even less money.
It's a very short-term thinking in the long-term suffering.
Very much
Yes,
so. You spend in December and then you pay for it for the rest of the following year to try and catch up. Because January you've also got all your school clothing and your fees and enrolling children in new schools, etc. So
I assume we are pretty bad at calculating the cost. Like when you redo a house and you say, that'll cost 100,000 Rand, or redo a bathroom, that'll cost me 50 grand. And then at the end of the day, it's costing you 2 or 3 times what you thought it would cost.
exactly, yes.
I spoke to you just off air, Amanda Johnson and Derryn Fish from Algoa Debt Counsellors, and just sort of said to you, why or when would a person choose debt counselling? I don't know if we've kind of touched on that already. And then just also to say, how does it impact my future when I get this debt against my name that I've gone into debt review? How does that affect me now and in future? Is it like a black mark against my name? How does that whole thing play out?
Okay, so when you apply for debt counselling and you've accepted the debt counselling that we have done for you, you get registered on the National Credit Regulator website, and you cannot make more debt. You can't use your overdraft facility, because that is the biggest problem, is that you robbing Peter to pay Paul all the time, and to get yourself into a place that you know this is what you have per month, and you actually do have to work with the cash that you have, and we do work it out so that you have enough cash to be able to live in a month, being your school fees and your rates and taxes and levies and rentals, and just the day-to-day living expenses that you have.
Okay. And then when it comes to once you're out of debt review, is there a black mark against my name, or how does that work?
As soon as we've issued clearance for the debt review, the credit providers and credit bureaus have a limited time that they have to update their records and remove the debt review flag. So any debt that was under debt review, the credit history is actually expunged. So you actually start on a clean slate.
That's great to know. And when it comes to how you negotiate, because I think you negotiate the terms with the creditors for the client, if I'm not mistaken, and how do I owe 100,000 Rand, and now do I still owe the same amount, or do I owe less, or do I pay over a longer term? How does that whole thing work?
So essentially, the debt you've made is what you owe. The credit providers, there are two different ways of working out a repayment proposal to credit providers, but essentially we will propose a payment and a reduced interest rate. We cannot dictate interest rates to the credit providers, but they are very often very willing to give concessions on the interest rates. So essentially what you're doing is you're reducing your installment and extending the term that you're going to pay over. So you're still paying the same amount of debt, but just over an extended term. And then the creditors will meet us halfway by looking at the interest rate. Can they help? And in that way, they will then give a concession on the interest rate to keep the repayment term within a reasonable period, which is generally considered to be about 5 years on unsecured debt, which is obviously vehicle finance and home loan finance is secured debt. So we're talking credit cards, overdrafts, clothing accounts, that is unsecured credit.
Right. You've been 15 years in this industry.
We have, yes.
And I was just talking a little bit about the journey. How did you two come together, and where are you now in the industry? I think you said you started something on your own last year. So talk to us about that.
Yes, we have known each other since the start of debt counselling, 2009, when we were registered as debt counsellors, and we worked within the same company. And then in the middle of last year, we decided it's time that we just need to do this on our own. And with Derryn being an attorney as well, everything is done in-house. We don't have to source attorneys. And then both of us being debt counsellors as well, we just decided this is it. We're going to do a partnership, because your clients actually become your family. You get to know them so well, and we just decided we needed to give a more personal service than what we were giving to our clients.
And I assume that brings a greater reward.
Yes. I'm the chatty one. Derryn, she's the figure person, so I'm the chatty one, and I chat to the clients, and I find out what they're about, what's happening in their lives, and you get to know they've got so many kids, and the kids are at school, or the kids are going on swimming excursions, or they just generally, some of them are just struggling, and they just need an ear. They just need somebody to tell them, I've had such a difficult time with my child, or I've had such a difficult time with things that have happened in their own lives, and sometimes they just need the ear for somebody to listen and just to know that they care.
Because money is a very emotional thing, isn't it?
Yes, it definitely is.
Yeah, we're finding it definitely, it's causing severe mental anxiety, especially over the past period where interest rates skyrocketed over that short period after the big reduction during COVID, and then they just escalated. And it does cause a lot of stress mentally and in your marriage and personal life, because you've got it constantly hanging over you. How do I get to the end of the month and manage on the money that I've got? And that's what we're there to help solve.
I think you deal with a lot of guilt and shame.
Yes, and a lot of people, I think that's why they use a lot of call centers, because it's at arm's length. But as Amanda says, very often you just need to actually speak to somebody, and that's where we feel the personal touch is the better route, because you know where we are, you know you can come in, you know you can get a statement, you can pick up the phone and speak to us directly. It is very important to have that relationship with your debt counsellor.
How do you get in touch? How do people get in touch with you?
We have our cell phone numbers, and then we also have an office number, which is also a cell phone, but we, at any stage, you are welcome to give our cell phone numbers, and we will contact people where possible and as soon as possible.
So if you need help, then I would suggest contacting Algoa Debt Counsellors, adcounsellors.co.za.
That's it.
Yes.
You must have a lot of tissues handy as well. Hey, you must have cried a lot of tears yourself. I can see it.
Yes.
We have.
We have for the clients. You have family members of the clients passing away, and it affects us as much as what it affects the clients as well.
I imagine that, we haven't even talked about that, but when there's a loss of a breadwinner or a loss of a family member, that can certainly cause an enormous amount of strife, and even possibly taking care of your older parents who are unable to sort of sustain their livelihood. I would imagine these are some of the big areas that people don't think about, but then can have a devastating effect on their finances.
Definitely. That definitely happens. And then also just for them to be able to then sit with us and say, okay, how are we going to work this going forward?
I think the word counsellor says it all. Very often it's just debt review. Debt review. But counselling definitely comes into it. It's a very important part of it. It's not just a phone call and do a budget and pay this every month.
So, and you think with women, both of us being women as well, women are more emotional than what some men are. So that is a safe place for them to just come and land and offload, and then they just feel better with a hug and a cup of coffee.
It's meaningful.
Yes.
It's understanding the grief of others or the challenges and saying it's not your fault. And sometimes it is the wrong things that you've done or behaviors that you've... But sometimes it's life.
It's very often life.
Yes, and then also to make that person realize that, you know what you're going through doesn't determine who you are. It doesn't change your value. The same thing with the coin story. The value of a coin stays the same, even if it's clean or dirty. The value still stays the same.
Even if it's crumpled up or not.
Yes, it's just to keep that person, to keep their emotional value going and them as a person. That there's nothing wrong with you as a person. There's just a few choices that you've made that haven't been good.
And I assume, as you say, we suffered with COVID and even now with all the interest rates hikes and stuff. 2024 was a tough year.
Very tough.
Yes, it's been very tough, yeah.
I think people really appreciate that support that you offer, as you say, a counsellor. If you want to find out more information, if you're looking for a counsellor, if you're looking for somebody that you just want to bounce some ideas off of, I would strongly encourage you to get in touch with Algoa Debt Counsellors, Amanda Johnson and Derryn Fish. Go and check them out. You can pop them an email, derryn@adcounsellors.co.za or amanda@adcounsellors.co.za, or just go and check them out on their social media platforms, as well as AD Counsellors, Ladies, thank you very much for coming in today. Really appreciate you.
It's only been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Hope Radio, Kingfisher FM.